So the vitamins which are there, that includes the fat soluble vitamins A, D, E and K. Milk has a very limited amount of vitamin K, while the B complex vitamins, they are found in the aqueous phase of milk. So they are there, but they are in the aqueous phase in the water, because they are water soluble, so they are contained in the part which is having water. Fat soluble vitamins A, D, E, and K, they are associated with the milk fat globules. Vitamin A is in the form of retinol, which is existing in the yellow milk fat of cows, and is due to lower efficiency of conversion of beta carotene to retinol. So this is one reason why you find that the milk in case of the cows is yellowish in color. So the yellowish color of the milk in cows is because of the presence of high concentration of beta carotene, which is not converted into retinol. But all the way, it is considered as good for the human consumption, because as you know that vitamin A has a great role to play with the eyesight, with the functioning of the eyes. So the vitamin A is, or retinol, or the beta carotene is responsible for giving the yellowish tinge or yellowish color to the milk fat or the whole milk of the cows. So this also implies that if you make the ghee from the cow milk, so that is also yellow in color, whereas the ghee which is prepared from the buffalo milk, that is white in color. Then vitamin D. Vitamin D, as you know, is anti-rectic activity. It prevents the rickets, and it is involved in bone metabolism, and it promotes the absorption of the calcium from the intestines, and with the help of 125 alpha dihydroxycholecalciferol. And vitamin D promotes the absorption of calcium, and the calcium which is absorbed, that will be um, deposited in the bones, thus the bones become stronger. And there are other tissue functions also of vitamin D. Then there is vitamin E in the form of tocopherol, and vitamin E has a mainly antioxidant function. Is an antioxidant which protects the lipids which are there in the milk. Very low level of the vitamin E is present in the milk. Then other constituents which are there in the milk. Milk contains leukocytic cells or leukocytes, which are also known as somatic cells in the cow milk. So if you remember in yesterday's lecture, I told you about the quality and pricing of the milk. There I talked to you, referred to you about the somatic cells in the milk. So I said there that the lower the somatic cell count, the better is the quality of the milk and the better price it fetches, because the better quality milk can be processed better, and its storage life is also much better. So in the present slide, you can see the cells which are colored with blue color. So they are depicting the um, different somatic cells or the leukocytes which are there in the milk. Although the leukocytes which are present in the milk, normally they are in the lower count, they are in low quantity. and that's the best thing as far as the quality is concerned. Milk also contains some slough of epithelial cells from the teat inner linings, the ducts, and the alveoli. Then milk has numerous other components, bioactive factors such as hormones and growth factors, enzymes, cellular proteins, small amounts of cellular metabolites from glycolysis, citric acid cycle, pentose phosphate shunt, RNA and DNA synthesis, and fatty acid synthesis. And also, milk contains urea, ammonia, and carbon dioxide to some extent. Milk has a very low oxygen tension. Then, in the present slide, we appreciate the composition, percentage composition of milk in different species. And here, the lowermost quantity of any component or the lowermost percent composition of any component that is depicted with red color, and the highest quantity that is depicted with the blue color. So in the different species, the different percentage composition of the different components of milk, that is water, fat, proteins, lactose, and ash, that is depicted. Now in case of the ewes, that is the female sheep, and in case of the sows, that is the female pig, the quantity of ash, that is the trace minerals, that is maximum 1% in ewes as well as in sows. While in case of the human milk, the protein composition is 1.8%, and the lactose is the maximum, that is 6.8%. Lactose means the milk sugar. Milk sugar is maximum in human milk. Then in case of the dogs, their milk contains maximum amount of proteins, that is 11.2%. And in case of the elephant's milk, there is maximum amount of the fat, that is 19.6%, and lactose, that is 8.8%. So the elephant milk has lot of sugar. It will be very sweet, and also a lot of fats, rather you can say the maximum amount of fats. Then if we go further, then it is the whales which have got the maximum amount of fats in their milk. Then in case of the ass, the water component is maximum 90% water out of all the species which are shown in this table. At the same time, the ash content is minimum, that is 0.5%. Same is true even in case of the mares also. The ash component is minimum 0.5%. That means that the mare and ass milk is very low in trace minerals, whereas the elephants, they have got good amount of water in their milk. At the same time, they have got the highest amount of fat, highest percentage of fat in their milk. And lactose too, that is the sugars also are maximum in the elephant milk. Going further, this particular pie diagram chart represents the different components of milk in case of the cow. So you can very well appreciate the major part of this pie diagram, that is blue in color, that represents the amount of water that is there in the cow milk, that is 86.6%, followed by the fats, which are 4.4%, and the lactose, that is 4.6%, and casein, that is a protein, 2.7%. Then there are whey proteins, 0.6%, NPN, non-protein nitrogenous substances, 0.1%, followed by minerals or trace elements, which is called ash, 0.7%, then the salts, 0.17%, and then the vitamins and enzymes, the last one, number 9, that is 0.13%. So this represents the composition of various components of milk in case of the cows. Then coming to the importance of different nutrients of the milk. In the earlier slides, we have talked about the composition, that whatever is present. So there we mentioned in yesterday's lecture the presence of fats, proteins, then sugars in the form of lactose, then vitamins and minerals. So now we will be talking about one by one about the importance of the various nutrients which are present in the milk. So the first one in this category is milk lactose. Milk lactose is also known as milk sugar, and also you know from yesterday's knowledge that it is a disaccharide which is consisting of 1D glucose and 1D lactose. It is a typical and principal carbohydrate of milk. The lactose content of the cow milk is 4.9%, and it's although sugar, but the absorption of lactose from the intestine, coupled with low pH, induces laxative effect by increasing the peristalsis. This is one reason why you will find that in case of the human beings, you will come across these days considerable number of people who are suffering from lactose intolerance. The reason is the same. That is the in these animals the enzyme lactase is almost absent, because as the age increases, the lactase enzyme is reduced. But there are people in which the lactase is totally absent. So where the lactase is totally absent or it is very very low, so those people they develop lactose intolerance. And since the lactose is a sugar, it contains glucose and galactose, both are sugars again. So and the sugars they attract water. So as we said now, that the slow absorption of lactose from the intestine coupled with low pH induces laxative effect by increasing the peristalsis. So laxative effect means that there will be more intestinal motility, and the peristalsis will be increased, so the person will have more motions. So this lactose intolerance is these days is common. It develops in number of people, and this is because of the sugar in the milk, that is the lactose. So if you remove the milk sugar from the milk, so that milk becomes the, you can say, um, designer milk for those people who have lactose intolerance. So such milk is available where the sugar has been extracted out, sugar has been taken out of the milk. So then if the people take that milk, then there will be no problem with the those people who are having lactose intolerance. Even a higher lactose diet does not shoot up the sugar level, because as we have said earlier, that there is a very slow absorption of lactose. First it is absorbed very slowly, then once it goes into the liver through the blood, then it will be broken down into the glucose and galactose. So again, glucose is half. So the in case of the diabetic persons, the milk and milk sugar uh, doesn't cause any problem. So diabetic people can safely consume the milk or milk products, provided there is no extra sugar added from outside in the form of sucrose or in any other form. Then comes the proteins. We did talk about the proteins, that number of proteins which are present in the milk, that is caseins, alpha lactalbumin, beta lactoglobulins. And when we talk about the lactoglobulins, then the IGs, that is immunoglobulins, so they are also there. So these uh, proteins, they are a rich source of essential amino acids to the consumer. It may be a human being, it may be an animal. So they are a rich source of essential amino acids. In the proteins, as we talked of the caseins, so caseins, they precipitate at a pH of 4.6, and in the milk it is present in combination with calcium in the form of calcium caseinate, or more precisely as calcium paracaseinate or calcium hydrogen caseinate, and it accounts for 82% of the total proteins in the milk. It is used as a standard for evaluating proteins of other foods, and also caseins have an anti-carcinogenic effect. Now, those of you who are with me, especially the A and B group of Ludhiana students, when I was talking to you in digestive physiology, when we are discussing the digestion in the stomach, if you remember, I have told you, I did point out, flag out this point, that we will take it up but again, and that point was that the um, digestion of milk in the neonates till their human becomes functional, or even in the human children. So there also I gave that example, that the milk which is taken by the neonate, or which is taken by the human newborn also, that is acted upon by HCl, which is secreted from the stomach, and it causes denaturation of this proteins in the milk. And then there is presence of the enzyme, that is pepsinogen, which is converted to pepsin, and this pepsin converts the milk protein casein into calcium caseinate or calcium paracaseinate or calcium hydrogen caseinate, and this causes its stay in the stomach for a longer time before it is taken to the intestines. So again, I gave you the example of those of you who have younger, very young brothers or sisters. So when after taking milk, if you find after some time, then some amount of curd comes out of their mouth. If you have ever bothered or to seen that, that curd is nothing but it is actually calcium paracaseinate or calcium caseinate. Then coming to the whey proteins, when we are talking about curd, then the proteins which are there in curd, or they are known as whey proteins. So these are very common these days, whey proteins, and those of you who are uh, interested in bodybuilding, and they must have come across that there are a number of diets these days which are refer to, which are containing a lot of whey proteins. So these whey proteins, they also form a major part of the proteins in the milk. They include the alpha lactalbumin, beta lactoglobulin, then aminoglobulins, lactoferrins, transferrins, protease peptone fractions. Beta lactoglobulins, they are responsible for transfer of antibodies. Lactalbumins, they double the quantum of vegetable proteins which are required to meet the daily requirement of essential amino acids. Then lactoferrinexin binding, iron binding proteins they are, and the whey proteins, they contain 51% essential amino acids, and they contain casein 45%. They are recommended because whey proteins, they are helpful in body building, building of the tissues, muscles in the body, and also for repair of the body tissues. Due to their high buffering capacity, the whey proteins, they are useful in um, treatment of inflammation of mucous lining and ulcers in stomach. That would be gastritis. When there is gastritis, when there are gastric ulcers in the stomach, so there, because of excessive secretion of acid, so there is inflammation. So to treat that, the whey proteins are given. So if you have come across that, otherwise also if you suffer from acidity, then it is always good to take the whey, which in our local language we call it as lassi. So always take whey, or you take the curd, which contains a very high amount of whey protein. So this helps in countering the excessive acidity in the stomach. So that is again one major, you can say, byproduct of the milk, which is used in the dairy industry these days. Whey proteins, they fetch a lot of uh, high price. So this is one of the processed products which is being used, which is being a source of high amount of returns for the dairy farmers, those who process their livestock products. Then coming to the fat, we did talk about the fat, that milk contains a lot of fat. That is because it is suspended, it is emulsified in the water. It's an emulsion of water and fat. So the fat digestibility of milk fat is higher than oils and fats. The fat exists in the form of fat globules in aqueous phase and in emulsion. And in yesterday's lecture, I showed you the slides which are of fat micelles and casein micelles. These fats are reported to have antibacterial and fungistatic activity, and the milk fats, they contain the anti-cancer agents, that is the beta carotene and vitamin A, that we have discussed in our earlier slides also, and especially in case of the cow milk, where the beta carotene is one of the major components, and which is giving yellow color to its milk, butter, as well as ghee. Then coming to the minerals, uh, they are also known as ash. So minerals are also present in milk. They are called milk of ash. They are composed of various inorganic constituents which are forming about 0.75% of the milk. And the minerals in the milk, they consist principally of chlorides, citrates, bicarbonates, phosphates of potassium, sodium, calcium, and magnesium. The calcium is 30% of the dried volume. Calcium is required for strengthening of bones. It helps in stimulating the hormone secretions, and it has got an important role to play in the nerve function, muscle contraction, and the blood clotting. A 1 cup of milk, which is say 300 ml, it contains 300 milligram of calcium. A liter of milk supplies as much of calcium as is available from 21 eggs. And If you remember, we did talk about that the main minerals which are present in the milk, that includes calcium and phosphorus. Both of them, they are important for strengthening of bones. Then there is iodine, which is essential for thyroid function, and small amount of selenium is also present as a trace mineral, and this is also a anti-carcinogenic. It prevents the cancer. Then potassium is regulating the fluid balance of the body, and it also helps in maintaining the normal blood pressure and is needed for muscle activity and contraction. As we talked in the last slide also, the phosphorus, it is required. It is helping in strengthening the bones, and it generates the energy in the body's cells. Apart from that, potassium and magnesium, they are also responsible for cardiovascular health of the human beings. Then in the vitamins, we did talk about the fat soluble vitamins A, D, E, and K, which are present in the fat component in the milk fats, and the water soluble component, that is the B complex, which is present in the water part of the milk. So in the water part of the milk, the B complex, which is water soluble, that contains or that includes B1, that is thiamine, B2, riboflavin, B6, pyridoxine, biotin, then niacin or nicotinic acid, pantothenic acid. Then apart from that, parabenzoic acid, inositol, choline, folic acid, then vitamin B12, which is cyanocobalamin, and vitamin C, that is in the form of ascorbic acid. Then fat soluble vitamins, that is the vitamin A, it helps in normal vision maintenance and also in keeping the skin tone. It also helps in regulating the cell growth and maintains the integrity of immune system. Vitamin D helps in absorption of calcium and enhancing the bone mineralization. And vitamin B12, it helps in building the red blood cells that carry oxygen from lungs to the working muscles. B12 or cyanocobalamin is responsible for the maturation of the RBCs. Otherwise, vitamin B12 deficiency results in anemia to the animals. That also we have talked of in the last module, and before that also in the first module. Riboflavin, it also helps in converting food into energy, and it is known as vitamin B2. And conversion of food into energy is a process which is crucial for exercising muscles. And when we say converting food, we mean ATPs to be converted into energy. Then niacin is important for the normal functioning of many enzymes in the body, and is involved in the metabolism of sugars and fats and are essential for bone health. And it is also important for cognitive function, memory, and also necessary for cardiovascular health and energy production. And vitamin B12 is difficult to get outside of the animal products or else as supplemental pills. And the vitamin B complex vitamins, they are responsible for the energy production, and also their number of functions. Then we will stop here. In the next lecture we will take up the composition of the milk, and thank you very much for joining me today for the last lecture.